Yes. Yeah, sige.
If the technical preparation of the Senate committee is yet underway, may we request to rebut on regarding the question that you have provided, asking us, kami sa nagsasagot doon eh, sino bang nirecruit nila? At saan sila nang nirecruit?
Go ahead.
Habang nag-antay.
While hihinto ka lang pagka ready na tong video.
Yes, okay, Mr. Chairman. Mga kababayan, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Senate President, hindi po totoong hindi involved si Teddy Casino, si Antonio Nino, at si Nery Colmenares sa underground movement. Si Nery Colmenares po, hindi pa siya congressman, ay na-meet ko na siya sa Iloilo City 2001 April. Kasama po si sa Toro Campo at si Teddy Casino. Hindi po yun meeting ng Bayan Muna lang. Meeting yun ng Regional Urban Party Committee para pag-usapan ang pag-prepare para sa Bayan Muna. The first na pagsali sa eleksyon. Alam ko ang lugar, saan, ang training center, 3 sila. Ang pinag-uusapan at ang meeting mga underground personalities at mga open personalities ng bagong alyansang makabayan. Because the chapter converted...
Can you provide the details now?
Sir?
Can you provide the W's?
Yes, sir.
W's now, right now.
Yes, sir.
Kasi you're making a serious allegation.
Yes, very serious, sir.
Yung when, where.
Yeah.
O sige.
It's in middle of April, sir, before the Earth Day celebration. I cannot forget that time. Si Nery Colmenares ay speaker...
Of what year?
2001. Si Nery Colmenares ay speaker, lecturer, tungkol sa propaganda operation sa pagbubuo ng alliance.
Where?
Iloilo City, sir.
Where? In the city.
Alam ko, sir, itatanggi na may-ari na ito. Hindi siya kasi involved.
Don't assume that. Where in Iloilo City?
In Arevalo, sir. Arevalo, Daroca Training Center.
Alam mo, these are details of the truth.
Yes.
That will test your credibility.
Yes, sir.
Pag sumablay ka rito, bagsak yung credibility mo.
Yes, sir.
Kung tumama ka, bumbo yung credibility mo.
Yes, sir.
Kumpletuhin mo yung 5 W's.
Yeah. Sige, sir. Daroca Training Center, Iloilo City, Arevalo. It's the favorite venue for underground gatherings because ang venue na ito ay tago at magandang venue. Nery Colmenares was there, Satoru Campo and Teddy Casino. And they were there to meet the representative of CPP Regional Urban Party Committee in preparation for the electoral campaign design kung saan ang mga chapters ng bagong alyansang makabayan at mga organisasyon nito ay itatransform ayon sa dokumento at directive ng CPP na i-transform to become chapters for the electoral machinery. So that meeting is not Bayan Muna meeting. It's a meeting of the Regional Urban Party Committee.
Baka deliberately dinidelay nyo yung preparation of video nyo,
No, sir.
Just go on, prepare it. Sabi ko sa kanya, he should stop the moment the video is ready.
Sir, we will do that.
Sige.
Can I proceed, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Senate President? Tinatanong niya sino ang nag-recruit, sino mga na-recruit niya. So of course, tama yung sagot kanina kasi ang recruitment namin ay organizational process. It's not an individual responsibility alone. But did I meet also Teddy Casino? Aside from the meeting in Arevalo, Iloilo City in 2001, meeting ng Communist Party ng mga kabataan pa kami. Yes, in Boracay. Nandun siya.
That was a CGP convention. Ano ba yun?
Can I be allowed my time, Mr. Chair? Kanina, hataw siya ng hataw, pinabayaan siya ng chairman.
Sinungaling ka eh.
Kita mo.
Kindly,
Oh.
How can you allow this, Mr. Chair?
Congressman kasi.
How can you allow this, Mr. Chair?
Now you know, mga kababayan. Mr. Chairman, can I proceed?
Teka, you provided the when, the who,
Yeah.
the where,
Yes.
yung how.
Ito po ay pagtitipon ng mga propaganda officers, community organizers na sa ilalim ng Regional Urban Party Committee ng Communist Party sa Isla ng Panay. At ang representative doon ay si Teddy Casino, si Satoru Campo, at saka si Nery Colmenares.
Saan pumasok yung recruitment?
Ang recruitment pinag-uusapan doon, hindi lamang tungkol sa underground, kundi pagpapalawak ng alyansa. Ang recruitment, ang binabanggit doon is very clear. Kapag nagkaroon ng eleksyon, ang mass base ay dapat palalawakin natin. At gamitin natin ang eleksyon na ito bilang oportunidad sa 3 pamamaraan. Pagpapalawak ng mass base, pagpapalawak ng underground, pagpapalawak ng alyansa.
So what's wrong with that?
Wrong ito, Mr. Chairman, dahil may underground recruitment ito. Ibig sabihin, ang kilusang lihim ng mga open organizations.
How would you connect that to the recruitment para sumampa sa bundok para mag-MPA?
The recruitment starts with the underground building. You cannot be recruited to the NPA, to the Communist Party, if you're not recruited into the underground component of the open
So
organization.
how many NPA regulars were recruited actually after that meeting?
The NPA regular, sir, will be waiting there in sa kabundukan, sa
Tanong
kanayunan.
ko, ilan yung na-recruit on account of that meeting?
Siyempre, sir, ang account of that meeting will proceed after ang implementation ng
Ang
meeting.
tanong ko nga, ilan yung na-recruit
I
na
can
naging
give the
NPA?
estimate, sir, based on my data nung panahon na yon, hindi bababa po sa 100 ng mga kabataan ang na-recruit
Can you name
sa underground.
Can you name
Sa underground, sir, sa
No, no, no,
underground.
no. Can you name names?
Of course, sir, ang mga names na ito, sir, ay may mga pangalan kami, pero that is, may mga open names, may mga underground names. Kami po, sir, nag-operate.
Ang tanong ko sa iyo, magbigay ka ng mga pangalan na talagang totoong naging NPA
Opo, sir, may
after that meeting.
marami
Or
po, sir.
series of meetings after that.
Yes, sir, marami po, sir, nag-NPA.
Wala pa ba to?
Okay.
Sige.
Yes, sir, thank you, sir.
Ito na. Okay.
Okay.
Ang Communist
Ayan na, sir.
Party
Later.
Thank
o
you, sir.
CPP ay siyang namumuno sa Pambansa Demokratiko
friend.
na may dalawang anyo ng pakikibaka. Pangunahin ay ang armadong pakikibaka at mga pangalawa ay ang parlamentaryong pakikibaka. Ito'y higit na maililinaw kung makikita natin ang kanilang operational at organizational structure. Ang CPP ay mayroong tinatawag na National Congress na kung saan ito yung highest decision-making body ng CPP. At mayroong itong Komite Sentral na kung saan sa loob ng Komite Sentral naririyan yung Political Bureau at pagkatapos sa loob ng Political Bureau ay naririyan ang Executive Committee o Komiting Tagapagpaganap. Ang Komite Sentral ay mayroong 4 na mayor na National Staff Organs. Ito ay kinabibilangan ng National Peasant Commission, National United Front Commission, International Department, at National Organization Department. Ang National Peasant Commission ay siyang namumuno ng mga magsasaka, indigenous peoples, fisher folks, at mga manggagawa sa agrikultura. Kaya kung titingnan natin sa mga magsasaka, naririyan yung KMP, sa indigenous peoples, nandyan yung katribo, sa hanay ng fisher folks ay Pamalakaya, at sa hanay naman ng mga manggagawa sa agrikultura ay ang Union ng mga manggagawa sa agrikultura o UMA. Sa National Organization Department naman, ito'y namumuno sa 3 pang bureaus. Naririyan ang National Youth and Student Bureau na ito yung nangasiwa, namumuno sa kabataang estudyante, kung kaya't mayroong LFS, mayroong CEGP, mayroong NUSP, mayroong anak bayan, at mayroong kabataan party list. Ang National Organization Department din ang namumuno sa National Women's Bureau, kung kaya't mayroong Gabriela at mayroong Gabriela Women's Party. NOD din ang namumuno sa National Trade Union Commission, kung kaya't mayroong KMU at mayroong Kadamay. Kaya yung mga nangyayaring okupasyon ng mga bahay na ginawa ng Kadamay sa Pandibulacan, tiyak, mayroon pong order yan mula sa NOD sa pamamagitan ng National Trade Union Commission. Kaya yung proyektong okupasyon ay trabaho ng partido yan at ginagamit na makinarya ang Kadamay. Ngayon, sa usapin ng alyansa, ang sumisentrong staff na organo ng Committee Central ay ang National United Front Commission. Ito ay sumisentro sa gawain ng ACT teachers, NUPL, National Union of People's Lawyers, at ganoon din mula sa hanay ng sektor ng relihiyon. Kaya naririyan yung Promotion of Church People's Response. NUFC din ang sumisentro sa Makabayan Bloc kasi ang Makabayan Bloc ay isang alyansa ng iba't ibang mga party lists. Ito rin ang sumisentro sa bagong alyansang Makabayan at sa iba pang mga alyansang ginagawa nila. Estratehikong alyansa man ito o kaya'y taktikal na pakikipag-alyansa. Kaya kung titingnan natin, ang operational at organizational structure ng CPP, napaka-purposive dito. Napaka-strategic, napaka-systematic, at napaka-well-organized. Tagos ito mula nasyonal hanggang local na level, at tagos ito sa iba't ibang sektor ng lipunan. Mapublikong sektor man ito o kaya pribadong sektor. Bilang isang dating membro at kadre ng Communist Party of the Philippines na umabot hanggang Antas, Rion, mapapatunayan ko na yung iba't ibang party list sa ilalim ng Makabayan Bloc, gaya ng Bayan Muna, ACT Teachers, Gabriela Women's Party at Kabataan Party, ay mga organisasyong pinamumunuan ng Communist Party of the Philippines. At ang mga representatives nito na nasa loob ng Kongreso ngayon ay totoong mga membro at kadre ng partido tulad ni Sara Ilago, Castro, Gaite, Kulyamat, Brosas at Sarate.
Kasama ko si Congressman Attorney Sarate noong naganap ang malaking National Democratic Front Peace Consultation Forum dito sa Davao, sa Mincing Hotel, Davao City. Kasama ko siya noon. At kasama ko siya sa mga Marahatag Surigao del Sur nang naganap ang malaking anibersaryo ng Communist Party of the Philippines doon. Na pagpasok namin doon, hinarang kami ng mga forces of the Philippines. At siya pa ang aming negotiating panel sa pagpasok namin doon sa base. At
yung video niyo.
Pagkibata na naganap ang malaking anibersaryo ng Communist Party of the Philippines noong December 26, 2008. At kasama ko rin dati noong i-release ang BJNP personnel na nagpikag ng mga people bilang prisoners of war. At kasama ko sa ibang mga forum si Congressman Sarate, mga peace forum. At patunayan ko ng Makabayan Bloc representative gaya ni Congressman Atty. Carlos Sarate ay isang partido komunista sa Pilipinas. Dahil hindi ka maging representative, party list representative, kung hindi ka party member. Dahil isang requisitos na maging representative ka ay kailangan member ka ng Communist Party of the Philippines. Hindi na tayo magsinungaling kasi alam, maraming nagkakaroon na ikaw ay membro ng Partido Komunista sa Pilipinas.
Narekruto ako ng NPA galing sa hanay ng IP ng Sambuanga del Norte. Narekruto ako si Frisha Alvarez, ang kabambam, ang sekretary ng Western Mindanao Regional Party Committee. Isa ho ako sa mga estudyante na pinadala ni Bambam sa Davao upang mag-aral under sa scholarship program ng MISTI o Mindanao Interfaith Services Foundation Incorporated. Nag-enroll ako sa kursong Bachelor of Elementary Education sa Liceo de Davao, Tagum City, Davao del Norte. Sa Community Technical College ako nag-stay dahil ito yung board namin. Sa Community Technical College of Southeastern Mindanao na rin ako namulat sa inuluhian ng MPA. Doon na rin ako naging membro ng mga underground organization ng CPP-MPA gaya ng Kagoma o Katipunan ng Gurong Makabayan. Sa CTCS rin ako naging nakasapi ng Kilusan. March 2019, umuwi ako galing ng Davao papunta ng Zamboanga Norte. April 2019, pinatawag ako ni Frisha Alvarez Akabambam sa Red Area upang pag-usapan ang 2019 election. Napagdesisyonan doon na ako yung magiging provincial coordinator ng Makabayan Bloc sa Zamboanga del Norte. Hindi ko gawa-gawa ang kwento ko ito dahil mayroon ho akong patunay, mayroon ho akong hawak na dokumento na pirmado ho ni Atty. Nery Colmenares na ako yung itinalaga nila bilang provincial coordinator ng Makabayan Block sa Zamboanga del Norte.
Ako si Sai, member ng Kadamay na nagmula sa Santa Maria, Bulacan. Lumusob kami sa Pandi, Bulacan upang mangagaw ng bahay ayon sa kumpas ng partido. Bilang kalihim ng partido, ang gawain po ng kalihim ng partido ng seksyon ay magrekluta ng marami. Lumulubog po kami sa urban area, sa urban core. Doon po, nagbubuo kami ng kababaihan, kabataan, at manggagawa. Kaya malinaw na malinaw po na ang Gabriela, ang party list na Gabriela, ang may kumpas nito talaga ay CPP-NPA. Hindi po pwede nilang itanggihan kasi kami mismo na nagbuo dyan na kumpas ng CPP-NPA bilang kalihim ng seksyon. Iyon po ang ibinaba sa akin at ipinatupad ko po ito. Kaya ang Gabriela po, malinaw na ang party list na yan, ang may kumpas at ang buo nito ay CPP-NPA talaga.
Ang Alliance of Concerned Teachers Party List o ACT ay binuo ng Partido Komunista ng Pilipinas para maging legal na tabing sa mga organisasyon ng mga guro at alyansa nito na magsisilbing pinakamadaling paraan para rin makapag-organisa, makapagpropaganda at makapaghikayat ng mga guro na susuporta sa armadong pakikibaka at magiging kasapi ng CPP. Sa aking sariling karanasan, naranasan kong ang aming sekretary sa aming komite ng partido nung ako ay nandito pa, nasa Manila pa, ay galing sa UP Diliman na isang profesor at isa ring miyembro ng ACT Teachers. Nung ako naman na ay kumilos sa Cagayan Valley, naranasan ko ring maibody sa organisador ng ACT sa Cagayan Valley na isa ring kakolektibo ko sa revolusyonaryong kilusan ng kabataang estudyante at pinapasok namin yung mga eskwelahan, kaaralang, mga elementarya para mag-organisa ng ACT. Pero sa likuran nun, nag-oorganisa kami ng ACT Teachers at matapos namin silang organisahin at bigyan ng mga pag-aaral gaya ng maikling kurso sa lipunan at Rebolusyong Pilipino, ay inoorganisa na namin sila sa underground mass organization nito na Kaguma o Katipunan ng Gurong Makabayan na direktang sumusuporta sa armadong pakikibaka na di maglalaoy, direkta ring magiging kasapi ng Partido Komunista ng Pilipinas. Kami, na mga kasapi ng partido, ay inoorganisa namin sila para sa malawakang pagpapalaganap ng programa, prinsipyo at patakaran ng Partido Komunista ng Pilipinas. Nung ako naman na ay direktang armado at NPA na, kumakausap din kami ng mga guro sa mga barangay at matapos namin silang kausapin, ay iorganisahin na namin sila sa Kaguma at matapos nun ay iuugnay namin sila sa legal na mga organisasyon sa white area para magkaroon sila ng legal na tabing at hindi ma-question ang kanilang organisasyon. Kaya itong ACT, ACT Teachers Party List, ay nag-oorganisa, nagmumulat sila para ang mamamayan ay lumahok sa armadong pakikibaka na direktang dinidirektahan din at minamanduhan ng CPP, NPA, NDF.
Ang aking mga ipapahayag ay patotoo sa ugnayan ng Kabataan Party List at ng Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army, National Democratic Front of the Philippines. Ang aking mga karanasan at kaalaman sa organisasyon at sa kilusan ang siyang ebidensya na siyang magbibigay linaw sa ugnayan ng mga legal front organizations with the underground movement sa pamumuno ng Communist Party of the Philippines. Ako bilang dating leader ng Anak Bayan, leader ng League of Filipino Students at leader ng Kabataan Party List, kami noon ang nag-organize sa mga kabataan na sumapi sa aming mga legal organizations at kalaunan, kami mismo ang pipili sa hanay ng aming kasapian kung sino ang pwedeng sumapi sa underground organization ng Kabataang Makabayan kung saan kami ay nangihikayat ng mga kabataan at mga estudyante na sumapi sa New People's Army. At hanggang noon nga ay naging membro ako ng New People's Army sa Southern Mindanao Region. Ako ay naging secretary ng isang guerrilla front sa Guerrilla Front 20 ng SMR. Kami mismo ang direktang nag-oorganisa ng mga kabataan at mga magsasaka sa mga legal organizations gaya ng Anak Bayan, Comval Chapter na kung saan nung nakaraang Senate hearing ay aking ipinesenta ang isang video ng Anak Bayan Comval sa loob mismo ng kampo ng NPA Guerrilla Front 20. At ang picture na kasama ko si Sara Ilago ay patotoo sa cooperation, coordination at collaboration ng Kabataan Party List sa ilalim ni Congresswoman Sara Ilago sa amin bilang mga kadre ng partidong kumikilos sa Cotabato City nung panahon kami ay nagkita at nagpulong at nag-usap noong January 2018. Kasabay din dito ang mga ebidensya, ang mga minutes ng mga meetings na aking nadaluhan ay aking sinumite sa Senate bilang patotoo at mga ebidensya na hindi pwedeng itanggi ng Makabayan Bloc, lalong-lalo na ng Kabataan Party List. Dahil uulitin ko po na ang Kabataan Party List kasama ang kanyang mga organizations gaya ng Anak Bayan, League of Filipino Students, CEGP, NUSP at iba pa. Sila po ay mga front organizations lamang ng Communist Party of the Philippines at recruiter ng mga kabataan para maging kasapi ng NPA.
Ako po si Ann Magabin. Nalaman ko po na may Senate hearing hinggil doon sa red tagging. At saka napanood ko yung nilalaman at statement ng magkabilang panig. Kaya na-encourage po ako na gumawa ng reaction paper based doon sa naging karanasan ko sa loob ng CPP, NPA, NDF. Ito po yung pahayag ko po. 4 na pahina po. At lalagdaan ko po ito mamaya. Gusto ko lang po ipaabot na ito ay voluntaryo pong ginawa. Wala pong humingi sa akin na gumawa ng statement doon sa sinasabi ng mga former rebels po. So ito pong statement ay karanasan ko po. At wala pong nagpilit sa akin na gawin ko to. So lalagdaan ko na po ngayon itong statement ko. Maraming salamat po.
Mga kababayan, the Communist Party of the Philippines has left a broad trail of blood in the landscape of our land. Ito po ang pahayag sa isang column ni former Ambassador Rigoberto Bobby Tiglao na nagpapahayag ng kanyang mga naging karanasan bilang former cadre in the early 70s ng Communist Party of the Philippines himself. Napakahalaga po ng punto na ito para sa ating mga kababayan at buong sambayan ng Pilipino. For the last 50 years, 50,000 buhay ang nawala dahil sa walang katuturan, walang katapusan, vicious cycle of armed violence na pinapakalat, ginagawa ng CPP, NPA, NDF sa buong kapuluan natin. Malinaw na ang kanilang layunin ay hindi nagbabago. Sa pamamaraang nagkukunwari na gamit ang legal na mga organisasyon kunwari nila, including ang kanilang party list, at ang kanilang armadong grupo na pinamumunuan ng Partido Komunista, ang NPA, malinaw mga kababayan na ang kanilang layunin ay ibagsak ang ating pamahalaan, isulong ang armadong tunggalian, at dumanak ang dugo sa pamamagitan ng karahasan, aagawin ng kapangyarihan at itayo ang isang sistemang naglalayong palaganapin ng komunismo sa ating bayan. Very clear. Yan ang tinatawag na democratic revolution nila. Simply put, ito po ang sinusundan nila Teddy Casino, Sara Ilago, Carlos Zarate, Nery Colmenares, and the rest of the CPP representatives na pumunta sa kapulungan ng Senado only to bring lies and alibi and to continue the deception and manipulation. Ang kanilang paggamit ng sistemang legal, democratic process, ang pagpasok sa constitutional provisions, and using all means that will appear legal habang nakatago ang kanilang sistema ng recruitment sa underground. Ito po ang napakadelikadong sitwasyon na sa matagal na panahon hindi na ibubunyag. Thank you sa kapulungan ng Senado. Ito'y nakikita ng buong bayan ngayon. Sapagkat ang underground building, ang pagbubuo ng linya ng NPA upang makakuha ng suporta mula sa urban areas, university, colleges, at maraming area pa sa mga sentrong bayan, itong tinatawag na red area, white area, red area interplay. Ang tawag sa prosesong ito ay revolutionary dual tactics. Iniikutan ng batas, binubutas ang batas, ginagamit ang batas upang pahinain ang ating pamahalaan, including ang pag-infiltrate
sa ating opisina at mga bureaucratic processes, including Congress. Ang pagpapahayag na ito ng naming mga former cadre, former leaders, members ng PNP-NDF ay tatlong basihan. Una po ay lumalaganap ang pagdudugtong ng mga testimonya, preponderance of evidence, testimonial evidences. Buhay na patotoo sa direktang eksperyensya, paglalahad ng karanasan at pagdadala ng aming sariling mga dokumento na nakuha pa namin ng kaming kumikilos pa bilang leaders ng CPP, NPA, NDF. And ito po'y bahagi ng aming redemption. Pagtutuwid sa naging kasalanan namin kung bakit kami naglalantad, nagbubunyag at naglalahad. Samantala po, malinaw naman ang naging ginawa ng CPP, NPA, NDF. Ipinadala nila ang kanilang mga representante na nagkukubli at nagmamaskara sa party list. At ano itong ginawa nila dito sa Senado? Una, sinabi nila na hindi nila kayang kondinahin ang CPP, NPA, NDF dahil ito daw ay isang grupo na naglulunsad ng rebellion at hindi kriminalidad o terorismo. Mali. Whatever they say, ang pagsusulong ng armado at marahas na pagkilos ng mamamayan at pagpatay ng kapwa Pilipino at pagpapabagsak ng ating democratically established government ay isang krimen. Kung sila ay bahagi ng gobyerno and they were challenged no less than by the chairman of the committee and by the Senate President to condemn itong ginagawang ito, and yet hindi nila ginawa dahil ito ay kanilang pinalakpakan, kanilang sinaluduhan, and they glorify it. Malinaw ang kanilang accountability. At the minimum, ito ay abetting or conspiring to commit rebellion. At the maximum, this is outright categorical treason, pagtataksil. And because of that, napapanahon ang panawagang mag-resign sila. Ito ay panawagan ng buong mamamayang Pilipino na nasasayang ang pondo natin, nawawasak ang ating mga demokratikong proseso at nawawala ang integridad ng Senado at Kongreso kung nandyan sila at pinapabayaan dahil sa kanilang kagagawan sa pagbutas ng mga batas natin. At pangatlo, nangangailangan po na ang kanilang mga ginagawang pagre-recruit na sinasabi nila personal decision ng mga miyembro nila at pinapabayaan nila, ang tawag nito ay respondeat superior. This is command responsibility. Kung aktivista lang daw sila at may nag-NPA mula sa kanilang mga organisasyong itinayo, hindi naman po pwedeng mag-deny sila ng pananagutan. Ang tawag dyan, accountability and responsibility. Yan po ang ipinapanawagan natin sa kanila upang managot sila sa mga magulang at mga nawasak na mga pamilya at nasirang buhay ng mga kabataan. At panghuli po, gusto nating ipalahad sa kanila at sa buong mamamayan, wala pong red tagging na nagaganap sa ating bayan. Red tagging ay invento at kaisipan ng CPP, NPA, NDF at ng mga kasabwat nila, kagaya ni Ginoong Teddy Casino, ni Ginoong Colmenares, ni Ginoong Sarati at ni Binibining Sara Ilago. Very clear, ang ginagawa ngayon ay pagbubunyag. Batay sa karanasan, eksperyensya, dokumento at pagpapatotoo ng mga taong naging bahagi ng ganitong proseso ng ugnayan ng armado at illegal, hindi illegal, above ground and underground na tinatawag nating broad spectrum of operations ng CPP, NPA, NDF. Malinaw na ito ay public awareness and security awareness campaign. At katungkulang moral at legal ito ng gobyerno na dapat gawin at suportahan ng mamamayan. At ang panghuli po, nakikita pa lamang natin ang dalawang aspeto ng programa ng CPP, NPA, NDF. Ang pagbubuo ng iba't ibang antas at iba't ibang anyo at forma ng organisasyong masa, mass organizing. At ang pangalawa, ang iba't ibang modus operandi ng pag-infiltrate sa ating mga burokrasya, sa ating opisina at sa ating mga proseso ng democratic space natin or the party list infiltration. Ang nakakabahala po, nananawagan kami sa buong mamamayan, sa Senado, sa Kongreso, bigyang pansin ang susunod na pag-iimbestiga sa malawakang pagpapalaganap ng kaisipang ito at taktika na ito sa tinatawag na international solidarity work ng CPP, NPA, NDF kung saan malaganap ang kanilang propaganda operations, funding and financing at ang kanilang ginagawang infiltration ng iba't ibang international bodies, including po ang pagbubuo ng alliance operations against the interests of the Philippine government and the Philippine state.
Ako po si Bae Magdalena Iligan mula sa tribong Mamanwa, Manubo. Ako po ay humarap sa inyong lahat ngayon upang patutuhanan kung paanong sinira at inabuso ng CPP-NP ang mga grupong nakaanib nito, ang kultura at pamumuhay naming katutubo. Ako po ay isang estudyante ng TREX, Tribal Filipino Program of Surigao del Sur, kung saan may mga panahon na isasama kami ng rally at lakbay kasama ang bayan. Bayan muna, Anak Pawis, Katribo, Anak Bayan at Gabriela. Ang mga IPs na 10 anyos pataas dinadala sa mga kampo ng NPA para mag-expo at mag-training, paghawak at pag-dismantle ng armas. Na ako ay naging 12 anyos, tumapi na ako ng NPA. Nagpasya ako na umalis na mismo ang mga NPA ang pumatay sa tatlo kong tiyuhin. Nasaksihan ko din kung paanong brutal pinatay ng mga membro ng NPA. Ang pinaghilaan nilang espiya or leader ng tribo na hindi sumuporta sa kanila. Lumabas ako kasama ang ibang mga katutubo upang ipaalam sa publiko ang pag-aabuso ng mga tribong minorya ng CPP-NPA ng mga grupong kaanib nito. Humingi din kami ng tulong sa mga mambabatas na kami ay proteksyonan para hindi tuluyang masira ang aming kultura. Marami pong salamat.
Ako po si Awing Apoga, galing sa tribo ng Atamanubo sa Talaningog, Davao del Norte. Ako ay anak sa dating founding chairman sa Salugpungan Tutanay Ikanugun na si Dato Gibang Apoga. Isa din siyang ginagamit at niloloko ng CPP-NP-NDF. Ako po ay narito upang kusang loob na ibahagi ang aking kaalaman ukol sa CPP-NP-NDF at sa mga organisasyon na kaalyado nito. Noong 1997 sa murang edad ko na 5 taong gulang, ako po ay naloko ng mga natatandang NPA at pinasok at nag-training para maging armadong membro ng NPA. Sa aking murang isip, ipinasok ng NPA sa natatandang sa aking kapalaran sa ang maging kasapi nila. Noong taong 2020 o 2007, itinayo namin ang Salugpungan Tutanay Ikanugun Corporated kung saan ang utos sa aming nakataas na NPA ay itinanim sa bawat pagtuturo ng paaralang ito. Ang galit sa bawat puso ng mga estudyante, galit laban sa pamahalaan, galit laban sa komunidad. Unti-unti po nilang minalayo ang aming loob sa aming tribo at niyalapit sa armadong pakikibaka. Tinuruan din namin ang mga IP student kung paano humawak ng armas, mag-asimbol at dismantle at sa ideolohiya nina Marx, Lenin at Mao. Ang mga estudyante ng Salugpungan ay pinasalitin sa mga rallies laban sa gobyerno kasama sa Bayan Muna, LFS at Anak Bayan. Sa aking palagay, kalahati sa IP na estudyante sa Salugpungan nag-full-time NPA. Samantalang ang iba ay nagagamit sa rallies kasama ng Bayan Muna, Bayan, Anak Bayan, FS, Gabriela at Anak Pawis. Sa katagalan ng maisip ko ang panloloko at corruption sa mga indigenous culture communities ng CPP-NP-NDF. Ako po ay umalis sa kilusan. At narito ako ngayon upang sabihin sa lahat ang pang-aabuso ng CPP, NDF sa aming mga katutubo. Ako po si Dato Lito Omos, isang tribal leader ng Tribong Mangguangan. Kasama ko po sila Giovanni, Jarog, si Jolan Digaynon at saka si Mili Digaynon, nagaling naman ng Tribong Banogo at Mandaya. Kami po ay narito upang ibahagi ang aming mga karanasan sa ginagawang pang-aabuso, pagsasamantala sa aming mga katutubo ng CPP at mga organisasyong kaanib dito. Ako po ay dating representante ng sektor ng katutubo sa Bayan Mindanao at kaanib ng CPP. Nang mga panahon na ako ay aktibo pa, ako ay pinadala ng NDF sa Europe upang humingi ng mga tulong pinansyal sa mga organisasyon para sa mga programa ng CPP, NDF. Subalit mula sa mga nakalap naming suporta, 60% po ito ay napupunta sa kaban ng CPP, NDF at 40% lamang para sa mga proyekto ng mga organisasyon na aming nag-propose dito. Ang masakit pa dito, ang masakit pa dito, kami ang nag-liquidate ng buong pondo. May pagkakataon na namumulot kami ng mga bus ticket sa basurahan ng mga bus terminal upang gawin namin attachment sa crash voucher. Ito sila Giovanni, pero Julan Ligaynon at Mili Ligaynon ay biktima rin ng panluloko sa CPP, NPLD. Sa kagustuhan niya makapagtapos at ng pag-aaral, sila Giovanni, Julan at Mili ay nagpa-recruit kay Jolito Jaro at naging estudyante sa Mindanao Interfaith Service Foundation Incorporated o MISPE. Habang sila ay nag-aaral, sila ay sa pilitan, sila pa sali sa mga rallies, kagaya ng mga pinangungunahan ng Kilusang Mayo 1 o Game. Kabila naman sa tinuturo sa kanila ay ang mga aralin ng CPP tulad ng patakang kurso ng partido o BTP at ang kalaunan sila ay pinapasumpa para maging miyembro ng CPP at pagkatapos sila ng kanilang pag-aaral ay pinasali naman sila sa kalipunan ng mga gurong makabayan o paguma na isang grupo na napailalim sa CPP. Binahagi po namin ito. Binahagi po namin ang aming karanasan ng CPP at ang grupong napapaloob dahil gusto namin may alam sa mga kinaukulan ng pag-aabuso at pagsira ng CPP sa aming mga katutubo at sa aming kultura at pamamaraan ng pamumuhay. Maraming salamat po.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Ulit, isang manubo. Narito po ako sa Senate hearing para ibahagi sa publiko ang aking nalalaman ukol sa CPP, NP, NDF at ang mga grupong kalyado nito. Ako po ay na-recruit na maging miyembro ng CPP, NP, NDF at naging tagapagsalita ng Pasakandoy sa Lumpugan, Kalimudan o Pasaka, isang regional na organisasyon ng mga lumaking Southern Mindanao. Nalalaman ko lamang na konektado ang pasaka sa CPP-NP-NDF nung ako ay ganap ng miyembro ng CPP-NP-NDF. Noong tagapagsalita ako ng pasaka, nagkaroon ako ng pagkakataon na makasama ko sa mga aktibidades ang mga opisyalis ng Anak Pawis at Bayan Muna. Ako din ay nag-recruit ng mga IPO para sa mga mapaglinlang na mga programa ng Mindanao Interfaith Services of Foundation Incorporated or MISP, kagaya nila Meli Digaynon, Giovanni Diarog, at Jonathan Digaynon, at iba pa. Kalaunan, sila ay nag-aral ng mga kurso ng CPP-NP-NDF, gaya ng batayang kursong pagpartido at pinasumpa bilang miyembro ng CPP at ng katipunan ng Gurong Makabayan o Kaguma. Ako ay nagpasyang umalis sa CPP-NP-NDF noong 2017 dahil napagtanto ko na walang patutunguhan ang aming pinagalaban, lalo na naranasan kong ginagamit lang ako sa propaganda ng CPP-NP-NDF. Yun lang at maraming salamat. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat.
Karnasan, nakita ko na hindi ito ang kalutasan. Meron nga tayong ideolohiya eh. Yung ideolohiya ang Pilipino. Likas na ideolohiya na naniniwala tayo sa Diyos at tayo ay makatao, may pagpapahalaga tayo sa buhay, may pangunahin natin, nakabase tayo sa pamilya. Ano? Ito ay wasak lahat sa komunista eh. Huwag na tayong patangay din sa sinasabi ng mga komunista, 50 taon na ito, my God. Perpetual war na ito. At kung ito ang talagang kasagutan umpa, ang sabi nga ni Marx, kung pinakikinggan pala si Marx eh, ang sabi, ito'y pakidigma ng mamayan na magtatagumpay lamang kung lalahukan at susuportahan ng mamayan. In 50 years na hindi ito nagtagumpay, ibig sabihin, ayaw ito ng mamayan. Itigilan natin. At ang kawawa ay susunod na lahing Pilipino.
Are you done?
Mr. Chair, if we may, since the members of the other resource persons asked for proof of direct recruiters, we have here Rina Kilantang, who will give her testimony online, and also Mr. James Dorimon, a member of the so-called Sparrow, who killed ordinary activists to put the blame on government. Just two of them, very short testimonies, Mr. Chairman.
Proceed. Good.
Magandang umaga po sa lahat ng mga mambabatas. Ako po si Rina Kilantang, 40 taong gulang, may asawa at naninirahan po sa probinsya ng Masbate. Bago po ako kusang loob na sumuko, ako po ay ang sekretary ng Amihang Gabriela sa probinsya ng Masbate at ako rin po ang vice chairperson ng Amihang Gabriela sa Region 5. Ako rin po ang presidente ng Yolo Espinosa Sierra Peasant Association at kalihim din po ako ng sangay ng partido sa lokalidad or SPL. Ang NISPA po ay ito po, ang pinamumunuan po nito ay nasa 7,000 hectares na lupain na kung saan dito po kumukuha ng pagkain ang mga CPP, NPA, NDF sa probinsya ng Masbate. At sa katungkulan ko po, ako po ay direktang inuutusan sa pumumuno ni Luding Tulingin or ni Kadadi para maghanap ng mapagkakatiwalaan at may potensyal na miyembro ng aking organisasyon. At ito po, pag nakapili na ako, ay direkta ko po silang inuutusan upang maging courier o tagapagdala ng mga pagkain ng CPP-NPA sa bundok. At sila din po ang nagsisilbing mata at tainga ng aming mga tinatawag na kalaban, lalo na po ang kasundaluhan at kapulisan. At dito po, nagre-recruit po ako ng mga kasamahan ko. Sa katunayan po, marami po akong na-recruit na maging SPL at marami din po akong napapasampa bilang nagdadala po ngayon ng armas. At ito po, Sinasami Nunez, dating barangay kagawad ng barangay San Antonio, Jubin Atibagos, Jory Atibagos, Romil Dakdak, at Junri Francisco, sila po ay mga CPP-NPA na ngayon na nasa kabundukan at nag-ooperate sa probinsya ng Masbate sa pamumuno ni Luding Tulingin or ni Daddy, KP4 ng probinsya ng Masbate. Dahil din po sa aking katungkulan, pag may mga patawag po sa region at nasyonal, ako rin po ang direktang inuutosan ni Kadadi para dumalo sa mga pagpupulong na yun. Sa katunayan po, noong 2015, nandoon pa ako sa Congress ng ika-12 Congress ng Gabriela, ginanap po sa Quezon City. At nitong 2019, nagkaroon naman po ng Congress, ang 13th Congress, doon din po ginanap sa Quezon City. Ako po ay nandoon at kaya ko po yung patunayan, may ID po ako na nagdalo po ako doon. At ang isa ko pong naging karanasan at masakit sa pagre-recruit dahil ang sarili ko pong anak ay na-recruit ko po mismo para maging isang tagapagsalita at ng organisasyon sa probinsya ng Masbate. At siya rin po ang ginawa ko pong taga-organize ng kabataan sa probinsya ng Masbate. Sorry po. Kaya po, yan po ang masakit na naranasan ko dahil ang buhay ng sarili kong anak ay nadamay na po. Kaya nung nag-isip po ako na bubama, kinausap ko po ang aking anak para sumama po siya sa akin. Dahil po sa loob, nakita ko po ang hindi magandang nangyayari dahil isa po sa mga kasamahan ko ang pinatay mismo doon. Hindi naman po dapat napapatayin dahil siya po ay napagbintangang intelihensya ng panag ng gobyerno. Doon po mismo kitang-kita ko pinatay po. Kaya nagdesisyon po ako na mubaba kasama ang aking anak. Ang mga katungkulan ko pong ito ay hindi ko po ginusto. Ito po ay napagkasunduan ng larangan ng probinsya ng Masbate dahil ako po ang gusto nilang mamuno dahil sa pinakita ko po na lakas ng loob sa pag-organisa, sa pagpasampa. Marami po akong napasampa, SPL at NPA. Sa ngayon nag-ooperate. Yan lang po. Maraming salamat.
That's it? Okay.
Video, Mr. Chair. This is now the video of James Dorimon, who was with the Alex Bongkaya Brigade. NPA. Sparrow. Where? Are we ready? Good. The last, Mr. Chair.
Chair Parlade.
Yes, sir. While waiting, if I may just explain, red tagging, we have been accused of red tagging, and the predicate that they are trying to allege on us is all these killings. So, proof po ito, si James Dorimon, ang mga killings niya ay talagang nangyayari, pero hindi po gobyerno ang pumapatay. Kung hindi ito, mga NPA Sparrow sa utos po ng CPP. And by the way, sir, si Nery Colmenares po, taga Negros yan. So alam niya kung anong nangyayari doon sa lugar niya.
Okay.
While waiting, I'd like to say that the DOJ case that Nery Colmenares has been saying was dismissed has not been dismissed. It is under appeal before the Secretary of Justice. In fact, 5 other cases of a similar nature are pending. These are the cases of kidnapping, human trafficking, child abuse, among others. This does not include the more than 10 cases of indigenous children in Haran, including slavery or forced labor, trafficking, and child abuse. None of these cases have been dismissed. The cases that have been dismissed were the cases of red tagging that were filed against the president and against officials of the NTF LCAC, and because the courts have been the decision was that very clearly there is no such thing.
Duly noted. Duly noted.
Amorphous. Thank you.
Wala pa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Si Consul
Mr. Chair, our technical people are here.
okay.
Thank you.
Sige.
Go ahead. Tuloy niyo. Tuloy niyo. Uy, nakamute yung ating witness, technical. Ayun o, nagpapakita yung picture, but mukhang nakamute. Advice, sabi? Yun. Paki-follow.
Sir, while waiting. Yeah, while waiting, the chairman would like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Kiko Pangilinan.
Mr. Chair.
Salita ka dyan. Ako po si James Sugunin Pagayuman. Dating kasabi po ng CPP-NPN dito sa North Nicaspan. Ako po ay dating sparrow noong 2018 po. Gaano po kami sa trabaho namin pag inutos ni Charity Amakan. Pag meron ng order na pinapasaba na kailangan na namin trumabaho, ano na yung itang sinasabi nila. So, yan yung pinapatupad po namin. Kaya katunayan nga po, minsan, ginagamit po namin yung uniforme ng mga pulis sa ating kasundaluhan po. Dito po namin na sa area ng Don Salvador Medellito. Na ginamit namin yung uniforme ng ating kasundaluhan. Pinipigilan nila yung ating kaunlaran sa ating
Are you referring to James Dorimon, sir?
Si Sandy Aison, yung kanina. Yung naputol kanina, napansin ko lang, napansin din ni Senate President, meron siyang parang pasa. Ano yan?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, pero pwede natin siyang tanungin. Matagal na pong siyang nag-surrender yan at voluntary po yung kanyang pag-surrender. Kaya I'm very sure hindi po yan nasaktan na po nabugbog.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
ano lang, curious lang yung napansin lang namin. Wala pa rin. Okay, in the meantime, habang hinihintay natin, mukhang daming technical difficulties. And I'd like to, these are relevant questions coming from the chairman. I'd like to address this to the DOJ representative, Assistant Secretary T, and probably din Tony Lavinia na rin. I'll premise my questions on the following timelines. November 22, 2017, the government cancels peace talks with the CPP and PNDF, citing recent tragic and violent incidents all over the country. November 23, 2017, President Duterte signs Proclamation number 360, which declares the termination of peace talks with communist rebels. December 5, 2017, Duterte signs Proclamation number 347, designating the CPP and PA as a terrorist group. When we say designating, that's different from prescription. And as a matter of fact, there's a pending prescription case at the Manila RTC, correct? Okay. Question. First, since there's a state policy not to negotiate with terrorists, now that the president has already designated, at least designated, because designation is far different from prescription. No arrests are allowed pagka designated yung organization as a terrorist group or organization. Does it mean that wala na yung peace talks will no longer be pursued? It's a thing of the past. Kasi dineclare na terrorist organization, and since there's a state policy, not only in this country but anywhere in the world, not to negotiate with terrorists, ibig sabihin tapos na yung pakipag-usap sa CPP and PA.
Yes.
May we hear from ASEC, if you're present? Or, yeah, Secretary Esperon.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Indeed, the President terminated the peace talks on November 23, 2017 by issuing...
Yeah, I said that already. Ang tanong ko, does that mean na hindi na ipupursue? Never. Think of the past na yung peace talks with the CPP-NPA.
As the President has always said, that despite this proclamation, we are still continuing with what we call the local peace engagements, localized, but centrally managed by the presidential advisors on...
Yun ang mahirap i-reconcile. What happens to the state policy not to negotiate with terrorists? It's either that the President rescinds the proclamation designating the CPP-NPA as a terrorist group and then i-open pa rin peace talks, or wag na mag-peace talks. Yun lang nakikita ko. Kaya nga gusto ko makuha yung view or views ng DOJ and probably Dean Lavinia. Can you help us out?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, indeed, the President has also been saying...
Sandali lang, John. Tanungin mo na si Dean. Go ahead, Dean Lavinia.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As a constitutional law professor, I can tell you that our President, as Commander-in-Chief and as Chief Executive, can actually decide anytime to conduct peace and negotiations with anyone, with any group. I mean, because that's a political decision that only the President can make. That is the case. That's always been the case, and so it would be within the power of the President as the sole executive and as the Commander-in-Chief to actually do that. That would be my position, and that's actually supported by international law in terms of the ability of governments to negotiate with all parties. But I do agree that to do that, there needs to be, as you said, some decisions and reversing of decisions, that an announcement, whether done legally, I mean, say in legal documents, or just as policy announcements done verbally, that in fact we will pursue peace talks. It doesn't matter whether it's the CPP, NPA, or other groups that the President can decide to pursue peace talks with.
Thank you for your clarification, Dean Lavinia. Asek T.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. When it comes to designation, the legal consequence of designation under the Anti-Terror Act and the terrorist financing law is merely to allow the state to freeze the assets of those designated. There is nothing in these laws which would categorically state that the President is prevented from negotiating with those organizations that are designated. So therefore, Your Honor, it would appear that the President continues to have the prerogative to negotiate with those organizations that are merely designated under our laws.
Thank you. Hypothetical question. Since there's a case pending at the RTC, proscription case. Now, what if the RTC Manila, because meron tayo saving clause, di ba? Kasi sa bagong Anti-Terrorism Act, Court of Appeals na ito. But then, since it is pending action ng RTC Manila, magko-continue yung prescription trial doon. Now, question. Assuming that the RTC Manila rules that the CPP-NPA is a terrorist organization or a proscribed terrorist organization, would that be a point of no return as far as peace talks are concerned? Hindi pa rin.
Your Honor, when it comes to sorry.
Yes, Dean Lavinia.
Yes, I would say that no, that in fact there are legal tools that will be available to the President. For example, Mr. Chair, even with that finding, even with people that might be found guilty for that, he could always sign an amnesty. There is no restriction on the President on declaring an amnesty of any group that take up arms in the Philippines. We've seen that with the reform of the armed forces movement. We've seen that with the We're seeing that now with the MILF, with the MNLF. The important thing is that there is a genuine agreement for a political settlement.
Thank you, Dean. Ang concern lang is the state policy not to negotiate with terrorists. Kasi pagka proscribed na yung organization as a terrorist organization, that's a different matter altogether because while due process will still be observed. Kasi designation, ang sabi nga ni ASECT, at sinabi ko rin, being the sponsor of the Anti-Terror Act, different from proscription. No arrests could be made or may be made pagka designated lamang. Pero pagka proscribed, pagka knowingly and voluntarily sumapi ka pa rin o nagpatuloy kang kasapi ng CPP and PI, assuming that it's already proscribed as a terrorist organization, then, of course, meron due process, DOJ, ipoprove yung probable cause na miyembro ka talaga knowingly and voluntarily. Pagdating sa court, at merong probable cause, mag-i-issue ng warrant of arrest. No? So, my question goes back to that basic issue ng state policy against terrorists. How do we reconcile that?
You know, may I respond, Mr. Chair?
Ang amnesty is a different matter. Is amnesty yun eh. Pero ang sinasabi ko, yung peace talks, will we still pursue as we are pursuing, as we speak, peace talks at the local level? Pero kung halimbawa umabot na nga doon sa proscribed terrorist organization na yung CPP-NPA, the only organization that government can negotiate peace with is the NDF. Yung political arm, di ba? But not with the CPP-NPA. Based on the state policy, not to negotiate. How can you negotiate peace with the CPP-NPA after it has been proscribed by the court as a terrorist organization? No, hindi legal yung pag-uusapan natin, but it's a matter of policy of the state that cannot be reconciled with the action being taken by the same state that adheres to that policy. Yes, ASECT.
Mr. Chairman, may I also say my word on the matter of resumption, whether there will be or not?
Yes, Secretary Esperanza.
The President has always said that as the father of the land and as the President, there could be a time when he can decide to resume or conduct peace again, peace negotiations with the CPP, NPA, NDF. It becomes a political decision when, if they are already proscribed and the President nonetheless decides to resume negotiations, it will be, as he has always said, because he does not want further fighting. That time has not come yet, and therefore we are addressing the problem. And if indeed they are proscribed as terrorists, then government will address them as terrorists. But the President may decide anytime to exercise his prerogatives to issue amnesties or pardons or even conduct peace negotiations. That is still among his options.
No,
as far as I can see from what he has been saying to us, Mr. Chairman.
Secretary Esperanza, wala akong problema doon sa amnesty, pardon, or yung legal issues involved. Ang tignuto ng questions ko, yung state policy not to negotiate. So if there is, unless the President rescinds presidential proclamation that he issued regarding, pero alam mo, that's one level up na yung prescription eh. But it's legal. So how do you reconcile being the security advisor of the President? How will you reconcile now the state policy of not negotiating with terrorists with negotiating peace talks with the CPP-NPA once it is declared or once it is proscribed? Not just proscribed, designated na nga ng presidential proclamation eh. How do you reconcile that?
I will not second guess the President, but I think this will have to go through
he will have to rescind the
Legal
presidential
discussions,
proclamation.
probably a rescission of these earlier orders so that we could go into peace negotiations. But today, at this point, it is not at that point. In fact, last night he just said that we are not red tagging you. You have red tag yourself and we are
Secretary John, ito na lang Kung Anti-Terrorism Council ang nag-designate based on the parameters, established parameters do sa United Nations Security Resolution 1373. That's different.
Yeah,
Procedural yun. But this is the President himself issuing a presidential proclamation designating or designating the CPP-NPA as a terrorist organization. So he will now go against the state policy based on his proclamation. If he wants to pursue peace, he may have to rescind the presidential proclamation. Now, regardless of whether or not the ATC designates the CPP-NPA, that's different.
He may, Mr. Chair, he may.
But
Chair,
he
may I come
will have
in?
to rescind. Yes, Dean.
Yeah. Yes,
Patulong
thank you,
rito.
Mr. Chair. Having seen, I've just to for the record, I have actually negotiated for the government many times in the last 30 years. I mean, as official of the government or appointed by the president to negotiate with various revolutionary groups. So I've had to study, being the lawyer, usually in the panel, to study all the different ways that this has been done, including, for example, the IRA in Ireland, which was a terrorist organization bombing people, I mean, leading to the the Good Friday Accords, as you know. In essence, when there is in fact a will to actually come to a political settlement, there's several legal things that have to be done, including what you just said. Typically, there would be back channel talks first before even doing any kind of policy change, and then a policy change can happen, and then there's several steps that can be taken. But we go back to that principle. I think that we all agreed that under our system, the president, as both chief executive and also as commander in chief, does have that prerogative to enter into peace negotiations and then peace agreements. Of course, Congress, including the Senate, will have a role to play if certain legislation is needed to implement an agreement. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Asekti. Yes, Director General Monteagudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I just add, Mr. Chairman, that at the moment the president has really shelved the idea of peace talks with the CPP-NPA. This is because, as we showed in the video, the last session, the CPP-NPA NDF only use peace talks as one of their means to overthrow the government. Should the president has designated the CPP-NPA as a terrorist organization. While we have localized peace engagements right now, the localized peace engagements is actually a means for
I ask these questions kasi relevant ito. Not necessarily pinatutungkalan natin yung ibang resource persons dito, but the public who may be witnessing the proceedings today, Kasi kung nag-iisip silang sumapi sa CPP at ganito yung situation, of course, they want to be enlightened also. Di ba? Yun ang gusto ko lang i-impart. Kaya ako nagka-clarify sa mga legal luminaries like Dean Lavinia and Asik T. Kaya natin dinidiscuss. Yung implications, possible implications, kung sakaling mapatunayan na nagmembro ka ng CPP, NPA.
Hello?
Not necessarily NPA, remember, pati CPP. So,
Hello?
does it mean na maski hindi ka NPA, hindi ka naman armed group, pero member ka ng CPP, na-prove ka, due process and all, na member ka ng Communist Party of the Philippines, does it mean that a warrant of arrest is forthcoming after due process is observed? CPP, not armed regulars ng NPA. We would just also would like to be clarified also in that regard. Kasi ang CPP, hindi naman ito yung armed component. So, can you share your views on this?
Yeah.
Because you're the advisor of the president.
Yeah, in fact, Mr. Chairman, the Communist Party of the Philippines, as it is not an illegal organization.
That's my point. Eh bakit sinama to sa
with the
prescription case at saka sa designation ang CPP?
But when that organization undertakes organizations that are activities that are violative of the revised penal code or of the provisions of the Anti-Terrorism Act, then they become subject to
That's different. That's different.
Yes.
Ang pag-usapan natin is membership in a proscribed terrorist organization. Once you are proven, ang kailangan lang dito, probable cause, ha?
Yes.
Judicial determination of probable cause, of course, after the probable cause established by the DOJ. Okay. Proscribe yung
Chair,
CPP.
can I come in, Chair?
Excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. Din
Can I come?
tapusin ko lang yung point
sorry.
ko. Okay. CPP and PA. So, member ka na CPP but you're not a member of the NPA. Proscribe ngayon yung CPP and PA as a terrorist organization. The only thing that the state has to prove is membership, knowingly and voluntarily, even after the prescription has been decided by the court. So, member ako ng CPP, hindi naman ako NPA, pwede ako ma-issue ng warrant of arrest after probable cause. Finding of probable cause. Yes, Din, kindly contribute.
Yes. Well, this is just without prejudice po with the Supreme Court petitions right now, no? Because one of the things that are actually being questioned is whether you can actually punish pure membership without overt acts. I mean, because usually you need to have overt acts of terrorism or rebellion to be punishable. The Constitution is very clear that you can have any political belief that you want to, and as long as you don't adhere to violence, then that is defensible. But in any case, I do think this is also relevant. What you have made very good points, Mr. Chair, because this actually shows to you how dangerous red tagging can be. Because if you actually say without due process that a person is a member of the Communist Party, we've heard that many times earlier today, then you are actually already making that judgment without a judge making that ascertainment, and that to me is very dangerous. It can result to real harm. I mean, to individuals. In my case, I am the lawyer for Kabataan and the lawyer also for the Lumad groups, and red tagging them and telling them that you are a communist without due process, without the court ascertaining that is certainly a violation of their rights. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Secretary Esperan.
Again, as we have always said, we are not red tagging them. They have red tagged themselves. No less than Joma Season has named them. And when there are meetings called by Joma Season, we see their organizations there. In the International League of People's Struggles in Hong Kong, they were all there. And so, without us naming them, they are telling us, they are showing themselves to be members of the CPP, NPA, NDF, or their cohorts. And so, in this hearing, the matter of red tagging being the subject, we want to emphasize that we are not red tagging them. They have red tagged themselves.
Red tagging is different from being declared, a court-declared order na member ka ng CPP. Iba yan, ha? Red tagging is different.
Red tagging,
that's more perception than anything else. Ano? And of course, there is a looming or probable danger or harm on the persons being tagged or red tagged. Ano? Pero pag-usapan natin dito, yung proscribed na yung CPP, ang ipoprove lang, member ka ng CPP, pwede ka nang arestuhin by virtue of a warrant of arrest issued by the court. Yun ang point ko. But CPP is not an armed organization. It is the NPA that is armed.
That is why, Mr. Chair, if I may, In this hearing, we will now show the connection between the CPP and the NPA.
Anyway, yes, Congressman Tino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this line of questioning kasi nabuksan po yung mahalagang usapin ay para sa amin na nasa Makabayan Block nung pwesto ng peace process as a national policy. Tama po yung binanggit yung mga pangyayari no na nag-decide na i-terminate ang peace talks through presidential proclamation, followed by yung proclamation designating the CPP-NPA as terrorists, and then termination of the peace talks. Tapos ang isa pang importanteng sunod na hakbang na ginawa ng presidente, nag-inisyo niya after those yung executive order number 70 creating the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict. Yeah, at dito po nagmumula yung fundamental objection namin sa NTF-ELCAC. Kasi nga, implementasyon siya ng patakaran na isang tabi ang peace process no, na sa aming paniniwala no, bilang makabayan ay yun yung tanging paraan para sa mapayapa at pangmatagalang solusyon sa armed conflict. So habang nandyan po yung NTF-ELCAC, barado po ang landas na yan. No? So, ngayon, ang problema, yung objection namin sa NTF-ELCAC sa mga aksyon nila, yung pagtanggi namin sa pagpupumilit nila na magkondena kami nito, ng ganon, ay sasabihin nila ebidensya na CPP-NPA kami o supporter kami ng CPP-NPA. When in fact, it is we are carrying out our conviction na kailangan meron tayong peaceful political settlement dito at kailangan harapin yung mga ugat ng armed conflict. No, hindi po nagkakaroon ng NPA dahil may brainwashing na ginagawa katulad ng paulit-ulit na sinabi nila si Secretary Espero meron pang psychologist report na sinasite. Kaya po nagkaka-NPA dahil nakakaranas po ang ating mga kababayan ng injustice, pangapi, pagsasamantala, yun ang kailangan tugunan natin. And last point, Mr. Chair, kahit po yung sinasabi nila na meron naman daw silang kinikilala nila yung local peace talks, no? Even that ay isa denies that the roots of the armed conflict require a national approach. Hindi po masusolusyonan ang kahirapan, kawalan ng hustisya sa pamamagitan ng local talks. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair.
You answered the question raised by Congressman Colmenares sa kanyang statement kanina. Sana ending. Sasagutin ko yan. Ang ending kasama doon sa tinatalakay ng ating committee. By way of legislation, ano yung magandang paraan para suriin yung ugat? Kasama yan. So yun ang kanina I was about to answer your question but sinagutan ni Congressman Tino. Kasama yan doon sa tinatalakay. This is not for show. This is not to, to parade witnesses. This is not to condemn the Makabayan Block. This is exactly for that. Yun ang long term. Of course, yung ating short term ending nito, we will come up with the committee report that may or may not be adopted by the Senate in plenary or may be adopted with amendments. Yun ang short term. But yung long term, ano yung pwedeng maisip namin ni na Senate President ng mga kasamahan namin na by way of legislation, pwede nating talakayin ang lahat ng pag-uusapan natin dito. So, yeah. General Parlade.
Short reaction lang, Mr. Chair. It is not true that CCPP members are not armed. Lahat ng nahuli namin, especially top CPP members, are armed with pistols though. And many of the CPP members are running NPA outfits. As front secretaries, palaging kasama nila yan yung mga armado. And we have here witnesses, ayan, mga kadre po, na magsasabi kung paano talaga ito. Cover lang nila ito. But maybe we can ask Noel. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yung NPA, malamang sa hindi, CPP yon. Ang sinasabi ko, CPP ka, but you're not necessarily NPA.
No, sir. I'm sorry.
Are you
Sir,
saying that you're automatically a member of the NPA pagka CPP ka?
some of the
No,
NPA
no,
leadership,
Sam. Ang sinasabi ko nga, hindi ka automatic na NPA pagka naging CPP member. Because after all, sabi nga na ni General Esperon, ni Secretary Esperon, ang CPP recognized naman yan eh. Eh meron nga ang Communist China, hindi ba?
Mr. Chairman.
Political yan eh.
yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, clarification one.
Yes, Conway.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, nais ko lang pong banggitin yung Article 10, Section 1, Paragraph 2 po ng CPP Constitution. Ito po yung nakalagay. In principle and in practice, ang CPP po ang namumuno sa dalawang yugtong revolusyon. Pambansa Demokrateng Revolusyon, na yun ay may dalawang forma po ng pakikibaka, armado at parlamentaryo. Ang CPP din po yung namumuno sa armado pakikibaka, United Front, mass movement, organs of political power, and eventually sa sinasabi po nilang People's Democratic of the Philippines. Ito po yung ipapalit sa gobyerno po natin ngayon. Malinaw po yun. Pangalawa, uulitin ko lang din po yung sinasabi sa Article 9, Section 2, hinggil sa relationship ng CPP at saka ng NPA. CPP provides absolute leadership over NPA. So therefore, kahit hindi ka NPA pero membro ka ng CPP, you have the responsibility. Usapin po yan ang principle ng command responsibility. Kaya hindi po sila yung absolutong namumuno sa NPA. Sila yung nag-uutos sa NPA. Sila yung nag-uutos na gawin yung terorismo at atrosidad ng NPA. So papaano ngayon lulugar yung mga membro ng partido na hindi armado? Eh yung nangyayari ngayon dito, actually excuses na lang, Mr. Chairman. Gaya ng sinabi ko nga doon sa oath nila. Saan ba yung allegiance and loyalty nila? Actually, wala sa gobyerno na to. Yung allegiance nila nandun sa CPP. Malinaw yan. Yan yung ipinapakita ngayon ng mga kaharap po namin ngayon dito. Ngayon sasabihin nila, eh ano kami? Nanggaling kami sa loob. I had been in the movement for 26 years. Yun yung totoong nangyayari. And ngayon, parang dinadivert nila ang issue, Mr. Chairman. Ang usapin dito ay relationship nung Makabayan Bloc at yung ibang legal front organization sa CPP, pero dinadala nila yung usapin doon sa peace negotiation. Ano ba yung sinabi ni Luis Halanduni? Napakalinaw po ang sinabi ni Luis Halanduni. Yung peace negotiation ay secondary doon sa parliamentary form of struggle. At sinasabi nga niya, malinaw na yung peace negotiation ay nag-serve din sa armadong pakikibaka. Malinaw po yun. Ngayon, ano ba yung objective? Bakit gusto nilang dalhin yung usapin sa peace negotiation or peace talk? Actually, walang ibang objective ang peace talk na nakalinya sa pananaw ng CPP kung hindi i-expose yung sinasabi nila wrongdoings of the government. Therefore, ang objective pa rin para ibagsak yung gobyerno na to, Mr. Chairman.
By the way, for the record, as far as I can recall, not one of the members of the Makabayan Bloc admitted that they're members of the CPP.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Pero those were denials. Those were denials and those were storylines. Itinuro po sa amin yan sa loob ng partido.
Mr. Chair.
Kasi ang burden of proof, you're saying that they are members of the
Mr. Chair.
CPP, you're maintaining, di ba? Mine-maintain mo na sila, Representative Colmenares, Representative Casino, Representative Quino, tapos sina Congressman Zarate, Congressman Ilago, and the rest of them, Makabayan Bloc. Ang contention ninyo, member sila ng CPP, ayaw lang nila aminin. Now, abogado si Congressman Neri, abogado si Dean Lavinia, abogado si Asekti. Ang burden of proof na sa inyo. Paano mo ngayon po proof na member sila ng CPP?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, gusto ko lang din pong banggit ito sa punto. Kasi actually, yun pong defense nila. Si Attorney Colmenares, alam niya, abogado kasi siya eh.
Okay.
Sa totoo lang, yung truth na sinasabi, hindi naman sa lahat ng pagkakataon ay mabibigyan mo ng pruweba doon sa dami ng ebidensya. Napakaraming may totoong nagkasala pero hindi napatawan ng parusa. Bakit? Dahil may kulang sa ebidensya, pero hindi ibig sabihin na hindi totoo yung nangyari. Alam din po nila yan kay abogado si Nery Colmenares.
But that's how due process works eh. You have to prove it. Ngayon,
May I come in?
this brings me to my next question.
May I come in, Mr. Chair?
After all, who wants to be recognized? Yes, Dean. Sige.
Dean Tony. Very simple lang po. You know, as someone who's worked both in the Senate and the House, and not actually for Makabayan usually, but for many senators and many congressmen, I can say that the Kamakabayan group of parties have already been there for nearly 30 years in Congress. You remind that there's a huge body of legislative work of laws that they have actually sponsored and passed. They have participated in impeachment proceedings, for example, with the majority party. So that's really not true. The no allegiance to the Philippine government, no allegiance to the Constitution. Because there's 30 years already of legislative work. I think it's a third group now. I mean, Congressman Zarata now is in Bayan Muna, and I think it's the third group from the original group that went into the parliamentary system. So it just doesn't bear evidence that these people are there to be like treason traitors that are implanted in the system, because there's objective laws that have been passed by this group of legislators again and again for 3 decades already. 3 groups of legislators already, because they've been into 3 cycles of elections already where they served nine years. So really, I think it doesn't pass what I call the laugh test, to say that they are there because they are not serious about governance, about legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm just thinking ahead din eh. Kasi may prescription case nga. I'm just thinking ahead. What if lumabas yung nag-decide yung Manila RTC or the Court of Appeals for that matter, under the new law? Nag-declare na nga na-proscribe na yung CPP, NPA, including CPP. I'm just thinking ahead. What will happen, not just the peace talks, yung membership sa CPP, if and when proven na yung a certain individual is a member knowingly and voluntarily after the prescription case has been decided na member siya ng CPP. I'm just thinking along that line.
Mr. Chairman.
If you follow.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Secretary Espero.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Of course, we recognize that they have been there as legislators for 30 years. But we also know that this CPP, NPA, NDF has been there also for 52 years, bringing about a broad trail of bloodshed across the land. Ito ang galing nila na magtago sa underground organizations and legal organizations. Na akala mo, wala silang ginagawa, ganun pala meron silang underground. Kaya tuloy-tuloy ang kanilang trabaho, suportado ng underground yung legal organization and vice versa. Kaya tuloy-tuloy sila. They have the trick of making us or convincing us that they are not existent. And when they are found out to be existent, they deny and keep denying it. Number 2, the second trick that they do is that they say that they are a good organization with good causes, as if they are the only organization that have good causes. Bahagi na rin yon ng kanilang pagtatago ng kanilang tunay na pakay. Yun ang overthrow ng democratic way of life and the democratic form of government. Mr. Chairman, ang EO70 pala, gusto ko lang idagdag, ay hindi nangyari noong 2017. EO70 was issued in December 2018. 1 year after they were proscribed, they were designated as terrorists in connection with the Terrorist Financing Act. EO70 takes 2 tracks. One is the political, social, and economic track, which takes care of the issues including provision of barangay development funds and addressing agrarian problems and other injustices. The other track is peace, law and order, and conduct of support operations for development, including, of course, neutralizing their armed group. So 2 tracks. Kaya itong ending the local communist armed conflict as a task force is exactly that. We want to end the local communist armed conflict because they have been here 52 years. Sabi nga ni Ruben Guevara, wala na mangyayari dyan. Hindi bumoto sa inyong taong bayan. This should not be a war that will take forever. We have our solutions.
Mr. Chairman.
Senate President is recognized.
Right. The question, again, that begs to be asked, how do you prove that someone is a CPP member. All right. Now, before we get the answer from you, if you have the answer, yes, indeed, action speaks louder than words. But is that proof? May aligasyon, may kilo siyang ganito. Is he already a member of the CPP? In much the same way as it goes against what Dean Lavinia is saying, hindi porki ang kilos mo ay pro ganito, hindi ka member ng CPP. Di ba? It cuts both ways. Hindi porki marami kang tinulong sa bayan o sa legislation means you're not CPP. Di ba? So the big question, my question is, Mr. Legaspi, Mr. Celis, Mr. Colvin, how do you prove that you were CPP? Or anybody else? Paano mo mapapatunayan na si CPP member yung tao na yun? Alright.
Without you admitting or confessing.
Yeah.
Paano ba ma-prove na kayo mga CPP dati, of course, no?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Senate President. This is the big opportunity that we're waiting. Kasi sa matagal na panahon po, nag-survive ang CPP and PND because of this portion. Na itatago nila at naikukubli ang isang political operation nila that gives them finance, kadre, recruitment, at naiikutan nila ang batas. Ang aking pinakasimple na mensahe para maintindihan ng mamamayan, ang CPP and PNDF is the most complex criminal syndicate to evolve in the face of the earth, in my assessment, in our assessment. Una, ito ay nagko-combine ng underground at above ground. They are distinct in character but inseparable in operation. Magkaiba sa pamamaraan, ngunit hindi magkahiwalay sa pagpapatupad. LFS, Kabataan, Makabayan, they're above ground. But the leadership core are controlled by the party. Ang tawag dyan ay political control and authority of leadership. So ang lahat ng mga namumuno ng open organizations are also underground. Ang problema sa underground, iyan naiikutan niyang batas because wala siyang roster of members. Coded, sekreto, compartmentalized. You don't ask questions. Ako nakagamit ako ng 10 pangalan. Sila alam ko rin gumagamit ng mga iba't ibang pangalan, koda at alias kapag sila ay pumapasok sa mga guerrilla zones. It is normal. Ang binanggit ko nga kanina, the strength of the CPP is in, yun ang weakness ng batas. I think dapat pag-usapan ito ng Senate at ng House, ng Congress. Why? Because naiikutan nila ang batas, nabubutas nila ang batas, at nagagamit nila ang batas to weaken the government. Ang tawag dyan, at alam nila ito, revolutionary dual tactics. Only the CPP was able to do this kind of tactics. Hindi ito ginagamit masyado ng Bolshevik sa panahon ng Russia and China. Sa Pilipinas lang ito.
Don't make conclusions. You're pointing to them eh. Hindi nga sila.
Yes, sir.
But don't point to them.
Yeah, of course, Mr. Chair, thank you for the reminder. Ang ibig ko lang sabihin mga mamamayan, mga kababayan, bakit kami naglakas loob, nagtaya ng buhay dito? Because this should be established. Where is the gap of the government and law enforcement? And where is the gap of legislation? Doon sa underground. Absence of anti-subversion law in 1992, ang CPP, NPA, NDF did not avail of the legal spectrum. They remained underground, they remained armed. Ang nagpaligal ay ang mga bayan muna, makabayan, at ang nag-participate sa eleksyon, hindi ang CPP, NPA, NDF. Ito po, sorry for this, Mr. Senator, Mr. Chair, Mr. Senate President, na miscalculate po ito ng Pangulong Ramos noon at ng grupo ng panahon nila ni General Almonte. Akala nila mag-implode at mawawasak ang CPP, NPA, NDF because of the internal rift. Eh magulang man si Joma, notorious, brilliant on the notorious side, nagkaroon ng rectification, nagkaroon ng peace talks. In the last 6 to 8 years, from 1992 to year 2000, nakarecover sila. Kung kaya nga nagamit nila pati ang batas natin, pinag-aaralan ba namin ito? Ang pinahanap sa amin ay papel. Ang sagot ko sa kanila, preponderance, correlation, and pattern of experience, testimonies, and practices will also form as evidence. Ang isang sindikato na grupo at kriminal na grupo ay hindi kailangan lahat sa papel mo i-prove. Ang Gambino family at ang Al Capone sa US, hindi sila na-prove na sila ay nangi-extort at nangingikil at nangungutong. Pero sila ay na-convict doon sa tax fraud. Because alam ng Estados Unidos at ng FBI na ang paper trail ay hindi mo ma-establish dahil sila ay underworld. The underground in the underworld ay walang pinagkaiba. Tama po ito. At I am very thankful for Senate President Tito Soto and Senator Ping Lacson for bringing this out. Kailangan bang maibalik ang anti-subversion law with caution? We recommend strongly for that, with caution. Why? Because membership to groups like underground embedded in the open organization that attempt to overthrow the government masquerading as legal organization, and the attempt to recruit our youth and our people using not armed but agitation and radicalization can be part of the new law on anti-subversion, because otherwise the political operations, the revolutionary dual tactics will always become successful to circumvent the law. Itong mga kasama na ito na nasa harap namin, Mr. Chair, Mr. Senate President, sinabi ko na at ulitin ko na. Posible sila hindi magaling manigarilyo, hindi magaling sa pangbababae at droga, pero napakagaling sa pagsisinungaling. That is one bisyo, that is one vice na namamaster nila sa loob ng CPP and PNDF. Saan ba kami nakakilala at nakita-kita? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Senator, Mr. Senate President, nagkataon lang ba na kami nakita-kita at nag-conspire para magtestigo laban sa kanila at laban sa modus operandi ng CPP and PNDF? No! This is framework, this is program, at marami pang iba. I will cite one example, 1 minute, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Una po, I have served the floor, Mr.
Can I
Chair.
come in
hope,
also?
we will be given that time.
Yeah,
Ang NGO racket,
wrap up.
yeah, 1 minute.
Can I come in?
Ang NGO
Madam
racket
Mr.
nila,
Chair?
nagkukunwari silang human rights group, nagkukunwari silang mga advocate for environment, niraraket nilang pundo mula sa abroad, at conduit ng mga NGO gagamitin nila, Mr. Senator, Mr. Senate President, Mr. Chair, at pagdating dito, ang nagkokontrol ng executive board like Ibon Philippines, Central Committee na mumuno niyan, alam namin, yes, kasi galing kami sa partido, inaamin nila, hindi. Itong mga institutions na ito, with due respect to some resource person, including kay Din Lavinia, a very esteemed lawyer, hindi po lahat na nakikita ng mamamayan ay naiintindihan kami. The complexities of the modus operandi similar, very similar to crime syndicate operations na master ng CPP and PNDF na tinatawag niyang revolutionary dual tactics, underground operations combined with legal and parliamentary cover. All of this, Mr. Chair and Mr. Senate President, made them survive for the last 52 years.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, can I come in? Kasi nabanggit po ako.
Just reminder to...
Yeah.
Can I come in, sir?
Din, si Congressman Casino muna, then I'll recognize you afterwards.
Okay.
And then after
Sure. Thank you.
Din Lavinia, Office of Secretary Anyo, kanina pa ito para nagtataas ng kamay. Yes,
Chair.
Yeah, after Teddy, si Neri, and then Din Lavinia.
Mr. Chair, ito po yung problema nila Ginoong Celis at yung ibang nag-aakusa sa amin. Ang sabi ni Mr. Celis, hindi niya mapatunayan na CPP kami because it is a complex organization, kung ano-ano. And yet, at every turn, he accuses me in public that I am a CPP member. Eh siya mismo nagsabi, hindi niya mapatunayan. And yet, the repeated accusations right in this hall for something na siya mismo sinasabi niya hindi niya mapatunayan. Eh saan na makabilang lugar doon, Mr. Chair? I was in Congress for 9 years. Not once did anybody accuse me of embezzling funds. Yung partida ho namin, Bayan Muna has been in Congress for what? 21 years. No single case of corruption, no single case of abuse. In fact, we have been consistently commended for passing good laws. Masisipag ho yung aming mga legislators. And yet, by simply accusing us of CPP, na wala naman silang di makitang dokumento, ebidensya, they cannot even mention one meeting that I was there as a CPP, they cannot even say one person that I recruited to the CPP or the NPA, iko-condemn kami na kami ay CPP. That is red tagging, Mr. Chair. That is guilt by association. That is trial by publicity. Yun ang ayaw namin dito. We will not... I mean, the NPA is there. They are recruiting. That is a reality. They have their experiences. I am not in a position to counter that. But from their experience, therefore, to conclude na ako rin ay dating kasama nila, ni hindi ko nga kilala itong mga ito, to conclude that I am engaged in the armed struggle, to conclude that I am doing something illegal, and that is guilt by association, trial by publicity, and that is exactly what we want to avoid. And hindi lang pangalan namin ang nasisira dito, Mr. Chair. Our colleagues have sacrificed their lives because they have been tagged that way. And therefore, this is the problem with red tagging. Kung meron silang kaso, kung meron silang ebidensya, there are proper forums. There is the courts. There is dati nung peace talks, merong joint committee for human rights, yung NDF tsaka yung gobyerno. But you do not bring that to the public. You do not accuse openly na wala ka namang ebidensya. Yun ang problema ko lang dito, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Congressman Colmenares.
Yes, short na lang, Mr. Chair. Maganda naman ang sagot ni Kong Teddy. The question of this of SEN-SP was actually very on point, no? Anong prueba nyo? Mabuti naman na kasing sagot nila, Mr. Chair, CPP-NPA kami. Therefore, we know na si Teddy, si ako, etc., CPP. Sabi ko nga kanina, well, may personal knowledge kami. May kayo, siguro, kung totoo man yun, di may karanasan kayo, huwag nyo naman kami isangkot sa karanasan nyo. So, Mr. Chair, mabuti naman, inamin ng ating star witness natin at ni Mr. Noel na wala naman talaga silang ebidensya. Kaya ito yung nasa komite ngayon yung sa issue ng red tagging. Pero ang problema dyan, Mr. Chair, is yung level ng standard of evidence nila is if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, therefore it must be a duck. Mahirap yan, Mr. Chair, on the basis ng mga beliefs mo, mga political pronouncements mo. Nobody should red tag anybody on the ground of how he walks or talks. Yun ang problema, Mr. Chair. So in the end, tama na rin yung ni-raise kanina na point ng ang committee chair. So saan tayo papunta nito? Anong ending nito? Red tagging, ganito, you did this, you did that. Yung issue ng peace process, we did not really deviated or anything. It was a legitimate question from the chair. Hindi yan sa amin na i-avoid namin yung issue kaya peace process. No. It was a legitimate question from the chair. And there were answers from the executive. So para sa amin, Mr. Chair, balik lang doon sa point kanina na sinabi ni Sen Ping na legislation ito posible to address the roots of the conflict. And which is, yun naman, ang aminado ang lahat. Mula pa yun, ilang presidente na yun, hindi mariresolve yung revolusyon sa Pilipinas hanggat nandyan yung kahirapan, hanggat nandyan yung injustice, etc. So kailangan step to the right direction dyan para magkaroon ng kapayapaan sa Pilipinas. At ulitin ko, Mr. Chair, with all sincerity, pwedeng sabihin ng AFP, kasi ano lang niyan, tactic lang nilang peace process to expand, etc. Sabihin naman ng NPA, CPP, tactic lang nila ang peace process para sa counterinsurgency. But you have to start somewhere. At yung issue ng peace process is very important sa atin kasi ayaw ng nating lahat siguro naman na merong patuloy na giyera sa ating bansa na hindi nare-resolba ang ugat ng revolusyon dito sa Pilipinas, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat po.
Dean Lavinia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I was not going to comment on the other witnesses because I really don't know them. I would not have any basis for doing that. And certainly the government people, I respect a lot. I've worked with them and I will work with them in the future. But hindi ko pwedeng palampasin po si Mr. Celis nung sinabi niya na kiniticize niya personally, a personal attack on President Fidel Ramos because I was the youngest undersecretary of Fidel Ramos in 1996 to 1998 and was assigned specifically to the two-peace process among other things. I was an environmental undersecretary at yung trabaho ko was to make sure na sa MNLF negotiations and then sa CPP-NPA negotiations that we will be able to deal with the environmental issues and the natural issues and the indigenous people's issues. Kasi ang laki-laki ng mga issues yun sa peace process in both sides na medyo maayos yung aming respond, which was to actually legislate IPRA, among other things, legislate new laws that would deal with those things. No? The reason, I hope you can call President Ramos if he's able to, but the reason for that thinking was kailangan, di ba si President Ramos always says this, we are one team Philippines. Kailangan tayo magkaisa. Hindi tayo pwede mag-away-away, magpapatayan. There are very big problems in front of us. Senator Ping, I was your big admirer and still is on disaster risk reduction. Kasi Ang laking problema yan, nakikita natin nangyayari, di ba? And without a peace agreement on all the different fronts, di ba, we will be fighting so many fronts. No, I give lectures to a lot of military officials on climate change because that's my expertise, and I always tell them that, di ba, yung trabaho nyo will be about climate change. In 10 years times, yun na lang yung trabaho nyo. Kaya we cannot afford this kind of crusades that are directed at people without any evidence. And I would really stand by FBR's strategy of peace, which is based on Team Philippines. Thank you po.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Secretary Anyo is recognized.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Secretary Anyo is recognized.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Magandang hapon po. Nakikinig po ako sa mga usaping issue. Sinasabi ng ating mga makabayang black na kaya hindi matigil-tigil ang giyera dito dahil poverty, kung ano pang reason. Pero kung titingnan po natin, maraming pang mas maliliit na bansa at mahihirap, pero walang communist insurgency. Sapagkat wala ritong organisasyon na katulad ng CPP, NPA, NDF, na mayroong isang grand conspiracy na ang bawat isa ay mayroong role na tinatawag. No? Ito yung symbiotic and supporting relationship na pinaliwanag ng ating mga former rebels na nagsiwalat kanina. No? At ito ang may kanya-kanyang roles. No? Ang CPP ang napapatakbo sa New People's Army. Bawat NPA formation, mayroong party branch, may party group, at may political officer. So hindi po gagalaw ang New People's Army kung walang political cadre na nagpapatakbo dito. At ang mga cadre ay wala man silang ID, pero yan ay sumumpa sa bandila ng CPP, NPA, at may political officer na nagpasumpa dyan. No? Wala man silang ID, ito yung mga makapagpatunay kung party member ba ang isang tao o hindi. At ang partido rin ang nagbibigay ng assignment kung ikaw ay dito ka sa underground, sa red area ka ba o sa zona, o sa white area ka o sa above ground. Sila magbibigay ng role sa iyo sapagkat maraming pakikibaka ang ginagawa ang partido katulad ng parliamentary, National Democratic Organization, peace negotiation, international solidarity works. Pero lahat ito ay in support lamang sa armed revolution. Ito ang primacy talaga, yung armed revolution, which is to overthrow the existing government and replace it with a communist form of government. Now, paano matatapos yung gera na to? Kasi marami nang napapatay na NPA, pero marami pa rin puwapalit. Sapagkat ito ang role ng legal front organization. Sila nagsusupply ng cadre para tuloy-tuloy merong pool of members to replace those who are slain. Kaya ang kailangan natin dito ay matigil itong pool of supply na ito at tigilan yung armed struggle. Kailan matapos itong mga labanan na ito within our constitution. Kaya ngayon lang nabunyag sa publiko ang modus operandi na ito. Kadalasan ang nakakaalam lang nito yung mga intelligence officers, military, base sa mga revelasyon ng mga nag-surrender, mga nag-capture. Ngayon ang pagkakataon, kaya ito ay magandang pinag-uusapan sa publiko para makita ano ba ang tunay na nangyayari, paano nag-e-end up ang isang estudyante, ang isang kabataan, napapatay sa labanan, sa digmaan. Yun dapat sagutin natin dito. At ano bang accountability ng mga legal front organization na ito na alam nila, more than half of their members umakyat sa bundok, namatay. Ganun na lang ba? Sabi na, malaya kasi silang nag-iisip kung anong desisyon nila. Eh ikaw, ano ang iyong magiging accountability, responsibility? Alam mo na kayo nag-recruit sa mga kabataan na yan at alam mo rin, namatay yung mga kabataan na yan sa paglaban sa military doon sa kabundukan. Itong dapat mapigilan sapagkat ilan pa bang mamamatay sa labanan na to na wala naman talagang dahilang maganda. No? Kung ang gusto ng ating mga kasama ay ang pagpapaganda, pagpapayapa ng Pilipinas, pag-unlad, gawin natin sa mapayapang paraan. Hindi yung magsusupply tayo at alam naman natin na mapupunta sa NPA, mapapatay, ilan pa ang mauulila. No? Katatapos lang nung isang araw, yung anak ni Representative Kulyamat, hindi sana sinapit yung ganyang klaseng buhay kung hindi sa nag-NPA. So yun lang, Mr. Chair, at maraming salamat sa pagkakataon.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Kiko Pangilinan is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chair. Just a quick manifestation. I wish to join Dean Tony Lavinia in his concerns and his manifestation regarding the importance of peace talks. Just for the record, Mr. President, nung 80s, yung Cagayan de Oro, yung Davao City, yung Jensan, talagang walang development dyan. Up to the late 80s, early 90s, in fact, late 80s, mga mid-80s, yung Davao City, laboratory ng Sparrow Unit, ang tawag sa Agdaw, ni Karagdaw. Hindi po ba? Pero nung panahon nga ni President Ramos, the aggressive peace talks with the MNLF, with the MILF, with the CPP, even with the RAM. Hindi po ba? Napaka-agresibo ng peace talks ng panahon ni Presidente Ramos, and I share the view raised by Professor Lavinia. There were peace dividends that we were able to benefit from because of these aggressive peace negotiations. The economic development in Cagayan de Oro, in General Santos, in Davao City, in the early up to the mid-90s, was precisely because of these aggressive peace negotiations undertaken by the Ramos administration. Bago nun, walang airport yung General Santos. Yung seaport sa Cagayan de Oro, wala. Walang mga hotel na magaganda sa Davao City. Pero dahil dun sa aggressive peace negotiations, hindi na nagpapatayan yung mga kababayan natin sa Mindanao at naging agresibo ang Ramos government dito sa peace negotiations. Pumasok ang investments, nagbago. And if we pursue continuing aggressive peace negotiations, there will be a second, a third wave of economic development in these areas. Gaganda na rin ang Iligan. Gaganda na rin siguro ang Marawi, finally. But until we address this issue of aggressive peace negotiations, tigil putukan, palagay ko it's going to be a vicious cycle and we will never be able to duplicate that window of economic investments undertaken because of the aggressiveness of peace negotiations in the mid-90s. For the record lang, Mr. President, para lang mailagay sa konteksto din at historical context yung kainaman at kahalagahan ng hindi nagbabarilan at nag-uusap ng usaping pangkapayapaan.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. General Parlade, and then Undersecretary Badoy, and then Mr. Legaspi.
Yes, sir. Just a rejoinder and a reaction to that usaping pangkapayapaan, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. We agree, of course, with peace talks. Maganda yung naging resulta ng peace talks with the MILF, MNLF, yung CPLA. But lahat po yan, yung mga organisasyon na yan ay nagbigay or nag-surrender ng kanilang mga armas. But these peace talks with the CPP, napakalinaw po yun doon sa Comprehensive Agreement on Socio-Economic Reforms. Wala pong demobilization doon. In fact, there's a role reserved for the New People's Army. Article 8 of the CASER, Comprehensive Agreement Socio-Economic Reforms, Article 11, Implementation, for instance, the NPA shall participate in the agrarian reform, in the rural, agricultural, and industrial development. Samantalang nakalagay doon sa Article 8, the role of the mobilized GRP military or AFP. So nakikita po natin ang direksyon ng peace talks na ito. Tanggalin po ang armed forces, may iwan ay ang mga engineering brigades to help the NPA in rural and infrastructure development. Ganun po ba ang peace talks na gusto natin? Napakahaba po ng CASER at doon nakapailalim yung iba pa nilang agenda. But to say that yung peace talks po ay dapat nating balikan, yun po ay malaking kalokohan. But Anyway, Mr. Chair, I agree with the statement of Ka Eric. This is now the venue for us to understand finally this revolutionary dual tactics. Ito yung matagal nilang iniiwas-iwasan. Kaya din Lavinia, I'm sorry, but nagpabulag tayo dito sa mga agenda nitong mga ito. And this is a document, Mr. Chair, and we'd like to submit this. This is the 5 taong programa ng partido, 2017 to 2021. Paliwanag sa 5 taong programa. This is a document recovered from Vicente Ladlad during his capture. We will give you an authenticated copy if you want, but meantime, sir, we'd like to submit this, and this will explain ano yung sinasabi nilang legal, malalegal, at saka illegal na organisasyon. Yung sinasabi ko kanina, paragraph 4.3, ano yung sinasabi nila na itong mga progresibong miyembro na nasa sektor ng mga aktivista, hikayatin na sumampa na sa NPA dahil wala nang kalidad ang kanilang mga kadre, wala nang masyadong armado. At ito rin ang dokumento na mag-explain kung bakit ang dami-dami ng sumusuko sa hanay ng mga NPA. Ito po ay explanation nila, assessment nila during the series of plenums that they conducted, I think twice. At ito po ay gusto kong isubmit dahil po ang hinanap nila ay dokumento coming from the CPP or ebidensya, mga dokumento. Kasama po nito actually, sir, ay dokumento explaining or telling us that they were able to recruit 8,635 anak bayan members as I think September 2015. So as of September 2015, ganun po kalaki ang miyembro ng anak bayan na na-recruit nila. Age 13, 14, 15 hanggang 30. Documented po yun. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to submit this, and I hope this will be able to help Senate in this inquiry. But to finally solve once and for all this problem on
Thank you.
on this revolutionary dual tactics and tagging.
Undersecretary Badoy, Mr. Legaspi, and then Director General Monteagudo, and then the chairman will allow the Makabayan Bloc to make their presentation so we can move on. Sige,
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Point of order.
Mr. Senate President, I find it
Point of order,
noxious.
Mr. Chair.
What is the point of order?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think it's unparliamentary language to manifest na after we've expressed our concern about the urgency and the importance of peace talks, that one of our resource persons will say, yung peace talks na yung kalokohan yan. I think that is unparliamentary, Mr. Chairman. It is to say, therefore, that this representation's earlier manifestation is kalokohan. And I beg to disagree, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, Mr. Chair.
Yes, well noted. Yes, Undersecretary Badoy.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Senate President, I find it noxious, the narrative that's being forced down on us by Teddy Cosino and Nery Colmenares that there is no evidence. What are these people? What are the stories that we've heard? Well, what about those IPs that were murdered by tribal leaders, the tribal leaders murdered? Hindi ba ebidensya yon? Parang they've been silenced already at pag sinabi natin na walang ebidensya, parang pinatay mo na naman sila ng pangalawang beses. Diba na their stories didn't happen, but those stories actually happened. Rano massacre happened, and it directly connects the Makabayan Bloc to the NPAs that they refuse to condemn, by the way. So please don't allow that, Mr. Chair, that there is no evidence. There is a lot of
Undersecretary
evidence.
Badoy, everything will be under evaluation by the committee.
Yeah, okay, but just
Because
for the
we have
record, yeah.
Hindi pa naman tapos tong hearing, so everything will be consolidated and evaluated.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I say this because we don't come here for ourselves, but we come here for the victims. Now we're not here for ourselves, but for the mothers who are outside who've lost their children. No, and that they directly link the Makabayan Bloc to the CPP, NPA, NDF. So there is a preponderance of evidence. Thank you.
Mr. Legaspi.
Salamat po, Mr. Chair. Gusto ko lang pong linawin yung konsepto po ng CPP hinggil po sa Digmang Bayan. Makakatulong po sa atin to para intindihin kung ano yung lugar po ng peace talks. Sabi po sa turo ng CPP, yung protracted People's War nila ay meron pong 3 integral parts. Ano po yun? Base building, agrarian revolution, and armed struggle. Ngayon, doon sa usapin ng peace talks, ang gusto lang po nilang mangyari, magkaroon po ng ceasefire. Ihinto muna sandali yung banatan. Pero yung base building nila at implementation ng programa nila hinggil sa agraryong revolusyon nagpapatuloy. Patutuhanan ko po, Mr. Chairman, noong 2016 hanggang 2017 na nagkaroon po ng peace negotiation ang gobyerno at ang CPP and PNDF, to be exact po, 155 days yan. Anong ginawa ng CPP? Nag-expand ng territory. Doon po sa area namin, we were able to build 16 komiteng revolusyonaryo sa munisipyo. Shadow government. Equivalent po ng municipal government ng gobyerno ng Republika ng Pilipinas. Noong mga panahon na yon, hindi pa namin naabot yung Sultan Kudarat. But noong mga panahon na yon, we were able to expand Sultan Kudarat. Halos lahat ng munisipyo. At nakapagtayo pa nga kami ng district level of government. See,
What year was this? Kailan ito?
noong 2016
2016.
hanggang 2017 po, minamaximize namin yung nagkaroon ng peace negotiation, 155 days yun. Kasi nga yung gobyerno may declaration ng suspension of military operation and may suspension ng police operation. So napakaluwag para sa CPP and PNDF na magmaneuver. So we're able to consolidate and expand our mass base. And diyan pumapasok ngayon yung deception ng CPP using peace negotiation. Sa loob, tinatawanan namin yung gobyerno eh. Sinasabi namin, we are outwitting government. Kasi nga yung tingin ng gobyerno, pag sinabing peace negotiation, usapin lang po ng armed conflict. Hindi po naiintindihan ng gobyerno na pag sinabing...
And you are stating this as a matter of personal knowledge because you were there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And aside sa personal knowledge po, prinsipyo talaga, doktrina ng CPP yan. At yun pong nangyayari. And aside po dun sa usapin ng expansion and consolidation of mass base, ang isang usapin to, bakit kailangan tayong pumasok sa peace negotiation? I am referring to 2016-2017 na peace negotiation, Mr. Chairman, para lang magkaroon ng second Congress. Ang CPP, kung titingnan natin yung history, kailan ba yung first Congress? That was 1968. Sa loob po ng mahabang panahon, hindi nakapag-summing up ang CPP ng kanyang experience. Bakit pinupush? Para magkaroon ng second Congress. Napaka-importante po yon para sa CPP. At pangalawa po, magkaroon ng kasunod na plenum after 1991. Kasi after 1991, wala na pong plenum, yung Committee Central eh. Nangyari lang after the second Congress, and that was the month of December 2016 hanggang January 2017. So ibig sabihin, ginagamit lang yung usapin ng peace negotiation para isahan yung gobyerno. Yan po yung totoo, Mr. Chairman. And now, sa usapin...
Sandali. Before you continue, I have a question, Mr. Chairman, sa iyo. Kanuel, ano? Mr. Legaspi. Sabi mo, during the time na nagkaroon ng peace talks, during the time of President Duterte, and I do remember that pag-upo niya, yan ay isa sa mga pinursu. Sapagkat he knows that in Mindanao during that time there were some rebel groups that were supporting him. He knew that. So tumawag siya ng peace talks, di ba? Habang nagpi-peace talks, ang sinasabi mo ngayon, at ikaw ay participant, na habang nagpi-peace talks, nag-i-expand naman yung CPP on the ground doon sa mga lugar ninyo. Kasi bitaw ang military at ang police, hindi nag-operasyon. Okay. Pero ang nakapikon kay President Duterte noon ay may mga NPA na umatake. Bakit? Ba't kayo umatake? May peace talks.
Actually,
Ano sa kanila?
Yes, Mr. Yes po, Senate President. Actually, part pa rin po ng directives namin na kahit mayroong peace negotiation, ay patuloy yung atake. Hindi lang sa mga tropa po ng gobyerno, armed forces o kaya PNP. And especially nga, tinitira pa nga yung mga private companies eh. Sa experience namin, we were able to burn.
Galing yung mga order na yun.
Galing sa Komite Sentral po, mayroon pong ganong mandato ang Komite Sentral. Kasi ang sinasabi nga, yung, say for example, yung panununog ng iba't ibang properties, ekwipo, ng mga construction companies, transportation companies, ang sabi nga nila, hindi kasali sa usapin doon sa kaser kasi isang usapin ng nasa third substantive agenda yan. Kasi sa political na usapin yon. Ngayon, inatasan talaga kami ng Komite Sentral. Mayroong ipinalabas na memorandum sa amin na kahit during sa panahon ng peace negotiation ay i-implement yung batas hinggil sa revolutionary taxation. Kaya yung mga hindi nagbabayad, tinitira. Sa experience namin sa parts of Mindanao region, we were able to burn 7 buses. 6 na bus ng yellow bus at isang husky. At pagkatapos, hindi ko na nga mabilang kung ilang bulldozer, ilang backhoe, ilang dump truck, yung sinunog ng CPP, NPA, NDF sa panahon na nagkaroon ng peace negotiation. At mayroong pangangatake sa ilang military installations at mga PNP personnel na ginagawa yung trabaho nila para sa usapin ng security and peace and order sa mga particular areas.
Pag sinabi mong central CPP, ano yun? Sila Joe Masison ba yun?
Of course, Senate President, kasi si Joe Masison, siya naman ngayon yung, siya pa rin naman yung chairman ng Committee Central.
Ito may question, Mr. Chairman. Nagtataas na kami si Ms. Corpin. May sagot ka rin doon sa tanong ko.
Ay, dadagdagan ko lang po yung sa usapin ng peace talks kasi sinasabi nga po kanina na tuloy-tuloy po talaga yung expansion at yung pag-atake ng NPA sa panahon na may peace talks. Ang tawag po dyan na binaba na memo ng Committee Central hanggang sa mga larangang gerilya ay active defense na postura ng NPA. Pag sinabi po nating active defense na postura ng NPA, ibig sabihin lahat ng mga kaaway sa uri na may kasong kapital, halimbawa mga Panginoong may lupa, mga landlords, negosyante, mga contractors, ay pwedeng parusahan sa panahon na kahit may ceasefire at peace talks. Pangalawa po, ay pwedeng bumira sa mga armadong puwersa ng gobyerno like PNP, AFP, Marines, etc. Pag pumasok sila doon sa area of responsibility kung nasan yung NPA. Kaya ganoon pong binababoy ng CPP, NPA, NDF yung peace talks po talaga. Kasi sa amin po, kahit yung mga target personalities, mga matataas na officer ng AFP, PNP na target for Sparrow na, binababa na po yung SO at pwede rin po namin silang birahin. Lastly po, nung mag-end na po ang peace talks 2016-2017, ang ibinaba na pong mandato ng Committee Central ng CPP ay maglunsad ng iba't ibang klaseng bira na magsisilbing panakot o panggunggon sa gobyerno para ituloy ulit yung peace talks. Kami po, particularly sa Cagayan Valley, naghanda po kami ng bira sa isang police station sa Piat, Cagayan para po kung matigil yung peace talks, maipakita namin na itong ginagawa ng NPA na tuloy-tuloy na pagre-rekruta at pag-oorganisa ay hindi titigil din. Kaya yun po yung pangunahing kondukta na ibinaba mula galing po ng Committee Central.
So, ang ibig sabihin nito, habang nakaupo si Joe Masison at si Luis Alandoni do sa the Netherlands, kausap sina Secretary Bello, Secretary Dureza, alam nila na may mangyayari ring active defense na sinasabi mo na pwedeng umatake sa mga kapitalista at pwede rin magsagawa ng small-scale operation laban sa mga detachment at saka sa mga munisipyo?
Opo.
Maliwanag sa inyo yon na yun ang understanding.
Opo.
Na nagpirma sila ng ceasefire, pero ang understanding sa ground, sa NPA, tuloy nyo lang.
Opo, kasi po ang memo na po na yun ay binaba hindi lang po sa mga larangang gerilya. Nakalagay po sa memo hanggang mga sangay ng partido sa lokalidad. Kasi po maging mga milisyang bayan po namin ay pwedeng gawin yung Sparrow.
Follow-up question, may hawak ba kayong nakapagtabi ka ba noong kalatas?
Meron po yun, nakalagay rin po yun sa mga yung mga pinasa noong nakaraang mga dokumento.
Yung mismong kalatas nung panahon ng ceasefire?
Opo, meron po yun. Opo.
Ang itsura, Mr. Chairman, ang itsura sa sinasabi ninyo. Alright, CPP saka NDF nakikipag-peace talk. May peace talks, di ba? Pero yung NPA walang peace talks. Ganon, ano?
Mr. Senate President,
Parang katulad nung panahon ni President Ramos, nagkaroon ng peace talks sa MNLF, MILF, nakipag-peace talks. Pero yung Abu Sayyaf, walang peace talks. Kasi pag upo ni ERAP, matindi ang problema sa Mindanao eh.
Mr. Senate President, Mr. Chair.
Rebellion.
Mr. Chair.
Diba?
Mr. Chair, 1 minute, rejoin.
Point of order. 1 minute.
The end of the peace talks for the CPP and PNDF is not to gain peace, but to gain political maneuvers, propaganda, and advantage balayan.
We heard that na.
Yes.
Yung ganyang taktika. Anyway, Director Jel Monteagudo, then afterwards, we'll just we'll recognize.
Just on the peace talks, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, just one very short.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Did we get any? Did we receive any? Si Director Monteagudo, pero
Yes, sir.
did we get any response from Smart and Globe after last time? Ginamit ninyo na 400 million a year ang tinatanggap ng NPA. 200.
Average of 200 million po, based on document and based on knowledge of practice.
Ano ang reaction ng Smart at saka ng Globe dito? Naglabas ba ng statement? Did they deny that or what? Baka si Director General Monteagudo can answer. Yes,
So
Mr.
far,
Chairman, thank you.
Yeah.
So far, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question, Mr. Senate President. On the question so far, Mr. Chairman, wala pong hindi po nag-reach out yung telcos sa security sector or sa officially sa NICA. That information has actually been around for a long time, and but we have been trying to reach out to them, especially Mr. Chairman, because if ever the CPP-NPA would be proscribed as a terrorist organization, providing them with money would be they would be liable for under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020.
For watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment down below for more trending NDRE videos.